Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Deck boats, fishing boats, pontoons, G3, Hurricane, Sweetwater, Skeeter, brand new, pre-owned, whatever your desire, whatever your budget, there's no better place to buy a boat, any kind of boat, than Madisonville Marine. Nobody has a selection to match them. I've been telling you that for years and years and years. You can check it out, madmarine.com, or you can just go right down to Highway 411 North in Madisonville and prepare to spend some time, because the number of boats they have on their lot and in their showroom is mighty impressive. Madisonville Marine. All right. Defensive coordinator Derek Ansley, like Jim Chaney, spoke to the media this week, and he believes that his defensive backs will be the strength of the defense. We said that a couple of weeks ago on this show, so no surprise there. He specifically singled out the veteran status of corners Alontae Taylor and Bryce Thompson. No surprise there. I think also those are the guys that you look at and say, well, they've got the most talent. The question is, you look at last year, Taylor got off to the bad start. Pruitt kind of jumped on him after the BYU game. I don't know that he recovered as quickly as they would have liked. And then you've got Bryce Thompson, who missed the first few games and then came back and had to work himself into game shape. For whatever the reason, those two didn't hit the talent ceiling that I think they have. Do you think they live up to their potential this year? Because I think the potential is for these guys to play in the NFL. Are they ready to make that leap this year as juniors?
John, I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say yes because they can't relax and get comfortable. They're getting pushed by Kenneth George and Warren Burrell, two guys that have had good camps, we've heard. So they're going to have to continue to push to keep their starting jobs. I think they will. Now, don't get me wrong. But it's not a situation where you just say, oh, I got this job and I can go be lackadaisical in practice and workouts and so forth, because they do have good cornerbacks behind them. So I'm going to say, in part because they're pushed by the backups, I'm going to say the answer to that's yes.
I'd say the jury's still out for me a little bit more on Alontae Taylor. I think Bryce Thompson is destined to have a pretty good year and should be positioned to do some good things. And they can move him around. He could play some at nickel or the star position and blitz and things like that. They can do a lot with him. Alontae Taylor is the one that I think has maybe as much upside as any of those guys, but he's got to put it together. He hasn't done it consistently. We saw it toward the end of last season a little bit. I think he can get there a little bit this year, but to me, he's a guy who it may take until his senior year before he really puts it together, in my view, but I think he's got the chance to have a better year for sure.
Yeah, and I think I lean yes as well. If I were playing the odds, I'd probably split and say one is more likely to be like an all-SEC candidate than both of them being in that conversation. But I also come back to Jeremy Pruitt and Derek Ansley coaching those guys. And those are two guys that, now they've coached really talented players as well at other stops, but their results are pretty good in terms of coaching that defensive backfield. I also think it could take some time. What helps is South Carolina and Missouri are not two of your tougher opponents. Now, when you get ready for Georgia Week 3, you hope that defensive backfield is ready. But by the end of the season, kind of taking Thompson and Taylor into the entire group, I think there's a good chance we're talking about the defensive backfield is the best group. We debated that, a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I think by the end of the season, there's a good chance that's the case. If it is, Thompson and Taylor both have to factor in.
Any other thoughts on defense, things that are standing out to you so far that we're hearing? I hate doing that, but it's all you got. What are you hearing that you like, or what are you hearing that is a concern a little bit? Anything on the defense that stands out?
I think the inside linebacker position is just in such better shape now with Jeremy Banks there. I think Quavaris Crouch still a work in progress, but still being listed as the starter. It sounds like from Derek Ansley's comments alongside Henry To'oTo'o. But I just think the fact that Jeremy Banks is pushing there and that this staff loves him so much that I think you're going to see all three of those guys play, and I think that's a much better situation than we thought it was going into this offseason.
Okay. I think one thing that's going to be interesting is second year in a row, for a different reason this time. Now, last year we went in not knowing what to expect from the defensive line and expecting it not to be good. And as the year went on, it got to be a pretty good group. Now you change the coach. You don't get Gooden back, who you expected to be back. Do those guys, because they played pretty well last year, now the expectation is, we're good there. Okay. I still have a lot of questions about that defensive line. And it seems that more of the discussion in terms of what's coming out over there has been more about the defensive backs and about your linebackers than it has been the defensive line. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not hearing more of this guy popped and this guy popped and that guy popped.
When you talk about what the expectations will be for the defensive line, part of that is when you go up against teams like Georgia Week 3, when you go up against Florida and Alabama that are going to be better up front along the offensive line. So The defensive line appeared to get better as the competition got weaker, right? So does the defensive line carry that over into better competition in those games that now you're not supposed to lose by 21 points. You're supposed to compete and try to win some of those.
Yeah.
I think the defensive line has a chance to be pretty solid. I don't think they have great players, but I think Butler's pretty good. I think Solomon's pretty good. Emerson, Middleton, that's kind of the core of that group. And so I think they have a chance to be solid, but I do agree with the point. Can they do it against the big boys? Can they do it against Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and those type teams? That's going to be a big challenge for this group.
All right, very good. When we come back, we've still got Tennessee's top 25 ranking to talk about. We've still got recruiting to talk about, how the extra year of eligibility could impact Tennessee's roster building and recruiting moving forward. But next, I want to talk about Tennessee's ticket plan. They announced it this week. Was it the right one? Are there any potential problems with their ticket plan? We'll discuss. Come on back on the Sports Source.